They say only the good die young, but in the case of Marie Antoinette, it's more accurate to say only the infamous die young. And one of the most enduring myths about her is that she said, "Let them eat cake." Now, that's a nice little soundbite, but there's a problem. She never said it. Hi everyone, welcome to this house. Today, we are looking at some primary sources to separate fact from fiction, and find out if Marie Antoinette really did tell people to let them eat cake. So, grab your dainty handkerchief and a cup of tea, and let us begin. The story goes that while Queen Marie Antoinette was enjoying a lovely stroll through the Tuileries garden with her ladies-in-waiting, they came across a group of starving children begging for bread. One particularly ragged child asked for a cake, and upon hearing this, Marie Antoinette is supposed to have replied, "Let them eat cake," or, in the original French, "qu'ils mangent de la brioche." This callous remark cemented her image as the evil queen, out of touch with the struggles of the common people and happy to live in a world where children go hungry so long as they have their cake. Now, there are several problems with this story. For starters, Marie Antoinette wasn't even in France when this story supposedly took place. In the summer of 1789, she and her husband, King Louis XV, were staying at the Palace of Fontainebleau while the Tuileries was being renovated. And even if she had been in the Tuileries, it's highly unlikely that she would have been strolling through the gardens without a massive entourage. After all, this was the Queen of France we're talking about, not to mention the fact that Paris was in the middle of a hellacious heat wave, and the palace was probably a lot less garden and a lot more molten tar pit. But even if Marie Antoinette had been strolling through the Tuileries with a gaggle of ladies-in-waiting, it's still very unlikely that she would have uttered those fateful words. That is because the first written record of the phrase, "let them eat cake," in reference to Marie Antoinette comes not from 1789 but 1792, 3 years later when the revolution was in full swing and the monarchy was in full retreat. It appears in a pamphlet titled "The True History of the Queen of France and the Ruin of the Royal Family," written by an anti-monarchist historian named J.H.J. Lefebvre. Now, to be fair, Lefebvre doesn't actually attribute the quote to Marie Antoinette, but he does describe her as the, quote, "most absolute sovereign of the sex, so well known by the delicacy of her taste that the proverb of 'let them eat cake' was applied to her." In other words, Lefebvre is saying that this was a well-known saying about Marie Antoinette, but he isn't the one who started it. In fact, the earliest known use of the phrase, "let them eat cake" in any language, French or otherwise, appears in an 18th-century Italian novella called The Parable of the Two Kings. In it, a poor widow suggests that the king's daughter, who is upset that the peasants don't have bread for their children, should tell the peasants to eat brioche instead. So what started out as a simple Italian novella traveled through Europe, got filtered down through multiple retellings, and eventually became the famous, or infamous, story of Marie Antoinette and the starving children. So why do we remember Marie Antoinette for this cruel and unusual quote? Well, in part, it was the perfect encapsulation of everything that the revolutionaries hated about the monarchy. Out of touch, pampered, and privileged, Marie Antoinette was living in a world of luxury and excess while the rest of France teetered on the edge of starvation. But it was also an easy and memorable soundbite that could be used to rally the masses against the Queen. After all, what's easier to chant, "Down with the monarchy," or "Let them eat cake"? In the end, this famous quote is just one small piece of a much larger myth-making process that has cemented Marie Antoinette as one of history's most infamous queens. And while we may never know what she actually said or did, we can take this opportunity to learn about the dangers of propaganda and the importance of separating fact from fiction. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.